So welcome everybody to the June 10th school committee meeting, in keeping with the ongoing emergency order from Governor Charlie Baker to limit gatherings and maximize social distancing, and under legislation passed to address remote board meetings during this emergency declaration. This meeting will be conducted remotely over Zoom and broadcast live on Facebook. This meeting is open to the public. We will take questions via the chat feature at the bottom of your screen. Please make sure you include your full name and address, and we'll do our best to answer all the questions. However, we will not read
Recording in progress.
questions that have already been answered. Okay. So first up is the regular meeting minutes of May 20th. Any questions, comments, edits? No? Okay. So I make a motion to accept the regular school committee meeting minutes of May 20th. Do I have a second?
Wiseman, second.
All right, roll call vote. Durant, yes.
DeLuca, yes. Oh, Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
Thank you. Great. The next up is the Easton School Committee executive session minutes from Thursday, May 20th. Does anyone want me to hold them for edits for a later date? Okay. I make a motion to accept but not release the school committee executive session meeting minutes from Thursday, May 20th. Do I have a second?
DeLuca, second.
All right, roll call vote. Durant, yes.
DeLuca, yes. Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
Thank you. All right, school council presentations and vote to accept. Dr. Cabral?
Thank you. At our last meeting, you were presented with the yearly school improvement plan of the high school as well as the middle school. This evening, you have two presentations. For the last several years, you know we've been coordinating our efforts at the pre-K to 2 level, and so Principal Weintraub, Principal Higgins, and Principal Cedarbaum will be presenting the pre-K to 2 plan first. They are here now joining us, and then when they're finished, we will have Principal Getchell presenting the Richardson Olmsted grade 3 to 5 school improvement plan. So at this point, I will turn it over to the pre-K to 2 team. Can you see the screen?
And I think you need to unmute.
Am I good?
Good now. Yep.
Hold on a second. Now I just lost my presentation. Perfect. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to meet with you this evening. As you know, it's been a historic and challenging year for all of us, students, staff, families, and the community. In March 2020, we faced the sudden and unexpected school closure, which extended longer than any of us could have ever imagined. Typically at this annual presentation, we report on the outcomes of our previous year's improvement goals. However, due to the pandemic, we had to shift our focus from our well-laid plans and direct all our energy towards navigating through how to provide for our students and families during these unprecedented times. It's important to note that the EPS staff's dedication, flexibility, and willingness to do whatever was necessary for our students, families, and school communities during this incredibly challenging school year was remarkable. They rose to the challenge of meeting the needs of students both virtually and in person during a worldwide pandemic, often prioritizing the students over their own families. They demonstrated amazing commitment to our schools and the community as a whole and should be commended for it. There are no words to adequately express our gratitude for all they accomplished this school year. We're excited to look forward to the 2021-22 school year, and it is with enthusiasm that we share our pre-K to 2 school improvement plan with you tonight.
Excellent. Mrs. Pruitt, if you can go to the next slide. Awesome. Good evening, everyone. So I'm here tonight to share with you and talk about our first goal for the 3 pre-K to 2 schools, which is all about unity. This is always our theme goal. Over the last couple of years, we've done a theme around choose kind. We've done a theme around reading and books and the importance of literacy. This year, we're going with a theme having to do with unity. This year is going to be all about moving forward together, as Mrs. Weintraub said in her intro. We are going to be working extremely hard trying to unite the Center, Moreau, and Parkview school staffs as we transition and get ready for moving into Blanche Ames when it opens. So our theme of unity is going to be woven throughout everything we do this year. We're going to be working together with curriculum across all 3 buildings. We're going to be working with activities and events across all 3 buildings. Last night, we brought together the 3 packs from each building to begin our initial phases of merging together as one. So we've talked about laying out plans of how we're going to be moving into this new phase of 1 versus 3. And it is no small undertaking. We know that this is going to be a very, very important year, but a year that's going to come with a lot of work behind it. Having opened a new school prior, it is not a small task. There are huge, big, grand plans of figuring out where kids are going to enter the building and exit the building, down to how are they traveling in the building, down to which door am I going to walk in and out of, or which key am I using to open my classroom. There are lots of plans, both big and small, that are going to go into bringing us all together as a cohesive, collaborative team as we enter our new building. So that is one of the big themes that we're going to be working on this year. The first goal of this is that we're creating a transition team for moving into the Blanche Ames. And on the back of your improvement plan packet, you will see that the team has been solicited and created. You have all of the members there. And we're going to be working this year. Our first meeting has been scheduled for next week. And this team is a representative of all stakeholders from across all 3 buildings, teachers, paraprofessionals, related services, custodians, secretaries, nurses. We are bringing together members of all groups because everybody is going to play an important role in bringing us all together and creating our new building. So some of the things that we're going to be working on through this team will be creating an inclusive and cohesive climate and culture in the building, the basic operating procedures of what the building, how the building will work, how we're going to use our physical space, both the gorgeous space inside the building and outside. We have our outdoor garden space and classroom space, playground and field space. So really working through how will those all be utilized. We really have to look at classroom placement and setup. Again, we're bringing 3 staffs together. So how will we place those throughout the building to make the best culture, climate, and working environment for all of our staff and students? Like I talked about traffic flows, it'll look completely different. We have a car queue that will hold 75 vehicles. We won't have traffic spilling onto major streets in Easton, causing backups and issues. So working out how all of that is going to work will be crucial and important, along with our emergency protocols. How will we exit the building in the event of a fire drill or an emergency? So we have a lot of work ahead of us this year, but I have a great team. We have many administrators and many staff members that are working together to make this happen. In addition to our transition team and their work that they'll be doing, we're looking to use some of our professional development time throughout the year to allow the staff from all 3 buildings to get together and talk about what transition will look like and work through how we're going to be coming together in the coming year. We're also, as principals, going to be providing opportunities for optional staff meetings every month to both give the transition team time to report out what they've been working on, but also to answer questions. Because again, we never want to leave our staff wondering and thinking what's going on, leaving them out of the loop. We want this to be an active and engaging process for all members of our staff, whether they're on the transition team or not. So providing those opportunities for them to be able to meet with us and discuss and share concerns and ideas about the new building will be very important. And one of the other things that we would like to do as principals this year is to take time getting to know the staff in other buildings. Again, as building principals, we really focus on our staff in our building, but all three of us are going to be moving into the Blanche Ames as administrators, working with the staff from all three buildings. So we are going to devote at least one day a month where we will be going to a different building and spending the day getting to know staff and students and how things work in the other buildings. So I may spend a day at Moreau while Mr. Higgins goes and spends a day at Center, and Mrs. Weintraub will come and spend a day here. So buildings will still be covered by an administrator, but it won't be the typical administrator that's there. It's like that old show, Trading Spaces. We want to get to know everybody that we're going to be working with, give them a chance to get to know us more, and really build that theme of unity as we go through. So that is our first goal, and as you will notice, as Mr. Higgins and Mrs. Weintraub continue on to our second and our third goal, with social emotional learning and curriculum, you will see how we've woven unity through all of our goals this year. Thank you.
Thanks, Chrissy. Thank you, everyone, as Ann stated, for the opportunity to share our hopes and dreams and our goals. As Ann said, I couldn't have said it any better. We've been through quite a year, and it's nice to look forward. There's a lot of things and hopeful things to look forward to, especially with what Mr. Cedarbaum was saying about the new school. So I'm going to talk about meeting social emotional needs of our students, but not just our students. In addition to our kiddos, we want to help support their families as well, but also our educators, faculty, and staff. So addressing the social emotional needs of all of the of our stakeholders has been a focus for us for several years. More so going into next year, we've experienced quite a significant increase in social emotional needs of all of our stakeholders since the school closure, school building closure, I will say, school building closure in March of 2020. Prior to this current school year, we had identified the need for a new social emotional learning curriculum. And after a thorough search, we ended up with Second Step, which has been implemented this current school year. We made it a priority last summer with all of those teams meeting that social emotional learning was going to be a priority of all of our schools. And our teachers, as Ann said, stepped up, implemented this program this year. And as with any program, that first year you do it, you're going to run into some roadblocks and try to problem solve as you go, see how it fits our students and our school district here in Easton, because no program is made specifically for a school or for a district. So this was quite a year to implement a new program. Our teachers did a wonderful job with it. The main crux of it being that morning meeting every day to kind of check in with your class. We did that during that hybrid model way back in September. So we're going to continue with that and really problem solve the pieces that work well. We would love to continue with that morning meeting as that tier 1 instruction each day, which is so important at each classroom, at each level, so that teachers are doing the same things with their students across our 3 schools. Let's see. The other things that we are focused on, we've done screenings the past couple of years using the DESA Mini. We're going to continue with that. So we screen our students. The teachers do this twice a year. We've used that to identify need at the student level in terms of what other tiered supports can we give these students. So they're getting the tier 1 support from the classroom teacher. And then on top of that, we have our adjustment counselors, our BCBA, who have been instrumental in supporting kids whose needs are a little bit more. And so we're going to continue with that. We'll also conduct our data meetings where we'll talk about how we can support those students and their families. And as I said, it's not just the students we want to support. Especially this year, we've supported quite a few families in terms of technology, but also accessing supports at home for students. A lot of kiddos struggled with our hybrid learning model. Some students knocked it out of the park and had a great experience. But we saw a lot of need in terms of parent education and also just reaching out and letting parents and families know that we're here to support them. If we want to continue with that and give them opportunities through different modalities, whether it be newsletters, informational nights, which we've done in the past, but we'd love to continue, and then social media. Really keying on mental health and the social emotional needs of our students. As Sam said, in terms of unity, having our educators connect and thrive with relationships is important to us, especially moving toward the new school. So we want to give our faculties and staff opportunities to really get together, focus on wellness, provide some volunteer opportunities for them so they can get out into the community together as schools and intermingle and do the things that we love and we know are good for not just our kids but ourselves as well as educators. So I'm really looking forward to it. Social emotional learning has been something that both as a classroom teacher and as a principal is very important to me. I've always said if we can have our students loving coming to school each day and feeling happy and safe, we've got half the battle won, and we can teach them anything. So it's I'm hopeful for a very different type of year next year, where we can really focus on extending what we've learned about social emotional needs of our students and our faculty and staff this year. And I thank them for it, like Ann said, doing an amazing job this year, truly amazing. So thank you.
So our third goal is curriculum related, as Sam and Tom have talked about, and the unity theme. Very important is for us to, be consistent in what we are teaching our kids. This year, we are adopting 2 new programs and implementing 2 new programs. Foundations, which is a systematic phonics program to be part of our literacy instruction, and No Atom, a science program, which we actually intended to implement this year, but again, another one of our well-laid plans that got waylaid. In adopting these programs as primary resources, they will serve to help us in our curriculum units of study as we continue to work on those and complete those. So in doing this, we need to train the staff in these new programs. We actually, a few weeks back, 3 weeks ago, trained our classroom teachers, K-3, learning specialists, reading specialists, interventionists in foundations. We had grade level trainings that were very successful. We will continue to provide training next year and ongoing support. We need to train new teachers. Anyone hired over the summer, paraprofessionals would really benefit from a training as well, and anyone obviously that missed the training. So we have that planned for early next school year. And again, we will provide ongoing support throughout the school year as part of our agreement with foundations. Materials have already been delivered to our schools. Every classroom is fully supplied. Teachers are looking at that stuff and able to review it over the summer and begin their planning if they wish. Another piece of this is that we as administrators are working to clearly communicate the expectations of implementation and help teachers understand how we will use this new foundations in conjunction with Reading Street, which is also one of our primary resources for literacy. Now with No Atom, the new science program, we did train a virtual training back in the spring, and we realized that was a long time ago, and it's been a very difficult year. So we are going to provide what we're calling a review and relaunch training. In September, we have that scheduled for September 28th. Again, we'll do grade level review and relaunch training for all our staff with the hope of implementation starting in October after everyone is trained. Those materials, again, are expected to be delivered in a week or so. We'll make them available to teachers if they so wish to look at them over the summer, but they'll be ready for them when they return in August, September for implementation. We also have an agreement with the No Atom to provide some really great ongoing professional development and support through a program that they call CHAMPS. We're going to recruit some science leader volunteer teachers to participate in this program. Similar to forming PLCs, this group will voluntarily work together. They'll observe each other teaching lessons. We'll provide reflection periods for discussing those lessons. providing feedback and working together to get the best out of this program and support our staff in feeling confident and comfortable in implementing it. We're looking forward to that. We also talked about finding districts that are already using No Atoms successfully and providing our staff opportunity to go observe in those districts science lessons and have conversations and collaboration with colleagues in other districts that are using this program. Again, just like with the foundations, we'll provide clear implementation expectations and guidelines and what's expected in terms of the implementation and integrating it with some of our current other science resources like the Great Body Shop. So staff is very clear, again, to that unity theme. The more consistent we can be with our curriculum when we come together the following year, it will help in our, cohesive and smooth transition to the new building. The next step in this goal is the curriculum unit writing, which, as you know, is an ongoing process. Yet we got derailed this year, like everything else, but we've already had a curriculum leader meeting this week, Monday, I think it was, to adjust our timelines. We had the opportunity to work in breakout groups in grade level and content area topics. And we revisited our timeline and our plans and where are we, where were we when we got derailed, and what would be the best plan moving forward. So the curriculum leaders are adjusting the timelines and the focus and setting up a plan for us to use some release days next year to really get back on track and get those units written. And I think the adoption of these new programs as primary resources will really help us fast track those units getting done. So that's our goal, our third goal in terms of consistency and curriculum. So thank you. That's our school improvement plan. We're open for questions or comments.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Jackie?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I really like your plan for transition, because I didn't even think about all those different elements that you have to go through, not just with combining your buildings, but your staff and getting everyone to work together and figuring out, what the best place for everyone is. So I think it's great the way you're putting together the transition team. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Jen?
In reviewing the plan and hearing the presentation, what really struck me is both how thoughtful your planning is and how exciting it is. There is so much to look forward to, and that really comes through in your presentation, both in how you presented today and in all of the forward-looking activities. So I just wanted to call that out and compliment you on that. I know it's been an extremely difficult year, and Ms. Weintraub, to even hear that with the curriculum work, there's not a sense of we're waiting until next year or we're waiting until summer to start, that you're engaging and using available time now to hit the ground running and prepare that path, and to have completed some work in May is really extraordinary. So just wanted to call that out and to thank you guys for all of the work that you've done. And it's seeing the plan helps make the new school even more concrete. So it's just really, really exciting to see this on paper. Great job.
Thank you.
Nancy?
I agree with all the comments that have been said so far. I appreciate your goal setting. They're very, I love how you guys always do it anyway. You do all three people together. So I think that's wonderful. But yeah, looking forward to seeing how we can continue on in 2021, 2022 and get these kids on track and back learning and just helping them in whatever way we can. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I just want to echo what they've all said. It's very clear that you're already working as one and have been. but you have such a clear vision for where you're going and how you're gonna get there. And I'm just really impressed with the amount of legwork you already have done, and you guys are just ready to go. That's awesome. I see Caroline. I want to let her talk.
I had to unmute myself first. I just wanted to quickly mention that I especially like the idea of allowing our teachers to observe teachers in other districts for the No Adam program. I think that is innovative and really smart. So I just wanted to congratulate you on that idea.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job, team. Thank you for that work. The next plan is going to be presented by Mr. Getchell. He's being entered into the presentation view now. Welcome, Mr. Getchell.
Hi, everybody.
And I will now turn it over to you for your school improvement plan.
Okay, thank you all. It's good to see you. This is weird. This is my first Zoom, obviously, Zoom improvement plan presentation. So, Chrissy, you're in controls, right, of the slides? You got me back?
I got you.
All right, here we go. Here's our beautiful school. Wonderful shot of a rainbow. We tried to look for the rainbows this year. Every day during this really difficult year. So you can just go ahead, Chrissy. This is our school council that worked really hard on this plan, and we revisited it this year as well. So I want to thank these teachers, parents, and community representatives for their work on this. Amy Cormier, Heather Lewis, and Patty Siegel, all members of our team here at RO. Stephanie Patton and Karen Fournier, parent. Kathy McNamara works at Stonehill, been a great partner for us. She oversees a lot of student teachers that come and work. So she's been a big part of this plan as well, and myself. So thanks to these people for putting this together. All right, so our first goal really is all around inclusive teaching and really merging special education and regular education into one, which in my opinion it should be. So we have really worked over the years and will continue to work on a co-teaching model where our learning specialists or our special ed teachers work side by side in classrooms, co-planning and co-teaching with the classroom teachers. Not just the special ed teachers either. We're talking also the EL teacher, our interventionists, paraprofessionals, and anybody that works here. We really try to maximize everybody's skill sets and make sure that everybody is on the same page, working collectively for the best interests of kids in the classroom. I really believe that we are, our job in a really big picture is we're preparing our kids for the real world. And, in the real world, we don't have special classrooms for kids who learn differently. Or for people that learn differently. We have to work together. That's how life is, and that's how the real world is. So while I do believe and support the idea that sometimes kids need special services, specialized pull-out services that they can't get in the classroom, that happens and will continue to happen. But, we really need to work consciously every day at teaching kids how to utilize accommodations, modification strategies to be successful in the real world, in the classroom. So that's easier said than done. I mean, our teachers spend hours and hours every day, every week planning with somebody else that might have a different perspective is not an easy thing. And not only that, our teachers are given a 40-minute prep period and a day, and they spend a large part of their day in front of kids. So the time they need to really plan collectively to do this really well is limited, and it's going to take some creativity on our part to provide them with more time. But we're committed to that. So we are providing our teachers with opportunity to take professional development on co-teaching. We have paired up already for next year. Every one of our special ed teachers is paired with 2 classroom teachers only. So if you're a special ed teacher, you're assigned to only 2 classrooms of our school, and you work with just those 40 to 50 kids every day, all day, right in with the teacher. So that is a big goal of ours. Just to give some numbers to back this up. The idea is to, at our school, I have that in front of me now. We have about, at each grade level, about 20 to 23% of our kids at each grade level are on an IEP. So 1 out of every 5 kids, almost 1 out of every 4 kids is on an IEP at our school. And I feel like in a community like this, with the kind of parent involvement we have, I personally think that's a little high. And I think sometimes we, in the best interest of kids, we always, by nature, trying to help kids the best we can, and trying to get kids more support is a natural piece of our work as educators. And IEPs come with more support. So I understand the drive to get students more support. But I feel like if we work better, smarter, collectively in the classroom, co-teaching, we can provide kids with the support they need and provide them the opportunity to make progress without necessarily having to refer them for special ed testing or try to find some diagnosis or disability to label them with. So it's a collective effort, and we are working very hard on that. A big part of that too, as Anne mentioned earlier in her presentation, is we need to really beef up our tier 1. Tier 1 is what we give all kids, phonics instruction K through 3. So I'm very excited that our 3rd grade teachers are going to join our K1 and 2 teachers on Learning Wilson Foundations, really beefing up our systematic phonics program K through 3. I think that's going to make a world of difference and decreasing the number of referrals to special ed because we're giving all kids, more phonics instruction at a more systematic level at K to 5. We have also partnered with a coaching group called Teaching Learning Alliance, TLA at RO. We're going to go into year 3 next year. This is a unique professional development model that basically puts a literacy coach in the classroom with kids, with our teachers, provides model lessons with the teacher, and teachers are actually experiencing professional development with their actual students in real time. And that model has been very effective. We had 6, we call them lab teachers, partner with TLA last year. We added more this year, and we'll add more next year. So in a very short amount of time, all of our teachers will experience this very intimate in-class professional development on literacy instruction. And we are also going to explore next year something that the middle school has worked really hard at over the last few years. And this idea of, middle school calls it a focus block, but we're going to call it a what I need block, or a win time, where we devote a small part of our day, and again, the schedule is something that we want to work on next year, where kids get what they need. So if you're in a 4th grade class and you're struggling in math and you need a math intervention, you can get that intervention during the win time. Or if you're struggling with comprehension, you can get a targeted intervention in comprehension during the win block time. If you need more of an enrichment, if you're somebody who is really into studying World War II and you're learning that in 5th grade, you could have a time where you can explore that more. So this idea of what I need, individualized what I need time, also would prevent students that may need an intervention from being pulled out of their classroom to get an intervention during core instruction time. That doesn't make sense. So we want, if you're struggling in math, you want extra, you need more math instruction, not to be pulled out and give something supplemental. So we're exploring this idea. We're gonna talk a lot with the middle school and how they did it, and that's a big part of next year too. So it's a lofty goal, but we're excited about it. Thank you, Christy, for moving me right along there. All right, so our second goal is really around social emotional learning, as our K-2 friends have in their plan. You know, it's no secret. This is a huge focus for our district, especially coming off a pandemic where our kids spent a lot of time in isolation, and that's not good for anybody. All for good reason, but you know, a lot of kids struggled. So we know that we need to make this a priority. Our school is a big school, and when you have 33 classrooms and 750 kids, having clear language and common understandings about who we are as a school, what we're all about, what we expect, have that language consistent across 33 classrooms and specials it's challenging, but so important. So that's why we work together to create a constitution every year as a school where the kids are very much involved in creating agreements that we live by so that we can come to school, as Tom Higgins said earlier, feeling safe and welcome, because Tom said it's 100% right. If you're not feeling safe and you're not feeling welcome, you're not ready to learn. So all of our efforts with curriculum and teaching go out the wayside if a child is worried about child's anxiety is skyrocketing about things that either at school or at home. So this is huge for us, and you know, creating this constitution, creating this shared language creates a sense of safety and expectation and predictability in our school, consistency. We've always had a Citizen of the Month program in RO. We're going to tweak that a little next year, where to really provide that positive reinforcement. If you are chosen by your peers in your classroom to, you know, as someone who's really worked hard at following our agreements that we set, our students choose a Citizen of the Month from each class. And we typically brought them down and we had a celebration. We gave them a certificate, took pictures, and we talked. But we want to amp that up more next year and actually have those Citizens of the Month become a school council, a student council for our school, and actually have become like a government body who talks about our agreements, what's happening on the playground, before school, on the bus. Are we really following these, you know, when teachers aren't looking? And giving kids more of a voice in how we are as a school. So that's a piece of this. And just engaging with our wonderful Easton community. Easton is full of wonderful businesses and nonprofit organizations that help people in our town all the time. From our veterans groups, our Easton Food Pantry, local animal shelters, elderly areas. We'd like to create a schedule of civic engagement throughout our school and do this in a sort of organized way. So, you know, different classes have maybe assigned a different group in town where they can partner with throughout the year and engage outside of the walls in our school into our community. So all of this aids into social and emotional health and is part of our effort to raise good kids. So move on, Chrissy. This is an example of a constitution we wrote a couple of years ago. You know, we tear this one down, we write a new one next year, but you can see that all of our kids sign it. They write, this is in kid language, written by kids for kids. We are the students of RO. All right, so next slide. We just to create this common language throughout our big school, you know, we have these sheets in every single classroom, every room, proud sheets. Again, here's our constitution. Kids can actually recognize other kids for doing these things and write them up and put them in, it becomes part of our morning announcements. They get hung up. Again, positive reinforcement. Let's give our attention to what's good, what kids are doing well. You know, the more attention you give to a kid on something, the more they'll do it, whether positive or negative. We're trying to focus on the positive. And on the flip side, we have reflection sheets trying to teach our kids that, you know, everybody makes mistakes, and mistakes are valuable learning times in life. And when you make a mistake, you got to start, you know, instead of pointing the finger out, you kind of set expression when you're pointing out, you get 3 fingers pointing back at you. really start looking at inward at ourselves and our mistakes, and teaching kids how to be self-reflective and how to improve moving forward. We do that through our reflection stage, where they fill these out and actually have this conversation with adults close to them at school or at home. Move on, Chrissy. Thank you. We also try to give our kids an opportunity to, reach out for help. That kids who might not be wanting to raise their hand in a class of 25 and ask for help on something, or a child who might be afraid to walk down to the counselor's office because they don't want to be seen. We have ways like the I Need Help form, where kids can very quietly, even at home, fill out a form where they just are able to very privately say something that's bothering them, and talk about strategies they've tried to solve their problem, and they can put this form in a box near our counselor's office, and we can privately go to them instead of them feeling like they have to come to us. So that'll continue. Next slide, Chrissy. And finally, our final goal is an equity goal, which I want to thank our friends at Raising Multicultural Kids. I reached out to that group to create this goal for our school next year. In this past summer, I participated in a number of meetings with that group around selecting good literature for kids, and also in a couple of book clubs where we really looked at systematic racism in our country, in our town, and they're such a great ally for our district and our kids. So they helped write this goal for our school next year, where we want to really proactively reach out to our minority school members, families that may have immigrated from other countries that are here, that have a hard time with the language, or families that are in minority groups that have been here for generations and generations. We want to find ways to reach them, and listen to them, and listen to their perspective of their kids' experience in our schools, being a minority in this town. That's what this goal is really about. With the ultimate goal of making RO an equitable, safe school for all of our kids. So step one in doing this, I've learned, is simply to be a listener, and listen without judgment, and try to seek other people's perspectives. We want to create an equity team next year at our school, an RO equity team made up of anybody who wants to join, parents, community members, staff. And really, I see this team meeting monthly, and it's really all about listening to different perspectives, maybe perspectives we haven't heard before. And through that listening, try to come up with some understanding and try to improve the experience at our school for all of our kids. One of the really great programs that RMK started this year that we participated in was a mentoring program where a minority mentor had a Google Meet with classrooms once a week throughout the entire year, so kids could see other kids, older kids that may look a little different than themselves, reading to them, learning with them, just being a partner with them and sharing their experience with them. So we had 6 classrooms in our school participate in this all year. It was awesome, really well received, and we want to expand that to 12 classrooms next year. So that's a part of this goal. Our 5th grade teachers are piloting some new social studies units around colonization of the new world, the Revolutionary War, and slavery. There are 3 or 4 units that our 5th grader teachers will be piloting that DESE created. The exciting part of this is that they are piloting, that these units are also being piloted by some teachers at the middle school. We really look forward to collaborating with them, as well as our department head, Matt Auger, for social studies on these units, and looking at these units with an equity lens. DESE's created a sort of a rubric for teachers to fill out after they finish teaching a unit on how well that unit addressed all Americans, all people. So it gives us a different lens into looking at our curriculum. So that's exciting, and all of our 5th grade social studies teachers are on board, and I look forward to working with Matt Auger, Chrissy, and our team on that next year. Okay, thank you, Chrissy. I'll move on. It's okay. Yeah, and
I'm
also,
sorry, you can go ahead, Chris. I hit the button too quickly. I'm not
Okay.
rushing you, I
I
promise.
thought you were giving me the hook a little bit, but that's fine. All right, so, and then, you know, in the elementary school, I'll be honest with you, you know, part of this step of becoming a more equitable world is being willing and having courage to be vulnerable and sort of being more comfortable talking about things that you may wish you have done differently. And as an elementary principal now, this is my 11th year as an elementary school principal, you know, dealing with young kids, I have sort of shied away from dealing with words like the N word, the R word, at this level. And I have seen over the last, you know, in my time at RO, we are having incidents of kids using the N word at our school. And this year, I think we've had 4 or 5 of them that I know of. And in most cases, it's kids not understanding the word. They hear it on social media, they hear it on YouTube, online. They don't really get it. They might hear it in music and they say it. Often completely, you know, and those come to me, and it's dawning on me that, you know, this notion that these kids are too young to talk about this and in a real way is something that I'm really rethinking. And I want to start to educate our kids at this level why words like that are so hateful and how steeped in hate they are in the history of our country and how they've been used. You know, I'm very well aware of the age of our kids, and I'm going to be sensitive to that. And I certainly want to work with all of our administration on this. This is a team effort, as well as community groups like RMK, our equity team. But it's time we really need to start more consciously educating younger kids about this, because they are hearing these words whether we like it or not, and they're using them. And if we don't educate them when they're young, you know, they may not learn. So that's a big part of this goal too, and we're going to be working with those groups, working as a district on that moving forward. Okay, Christy. Okay, and then as Anne said at the beginning of this, you know, I would be remiss if I went through this presentation without giving adequate credit to who I think are the heroes of this year at our school, and those are a few that I'll mention. One definitely group is the teachers. I don't know if I could have done this as a classroom teacher this year. The amount of work, so this is, you don't see the students in this picture, but this is a teacher. This could have been any one of our teachers during a day, during a hybrid. And you can see that she's got 3 computers going at the same time. On one of the computers are the kids at home. On the other computer is the material that she's presenting to kids at home and in school. And the third computer is what's being presented to the kids in front of her. There are multiple microphones, multiple cameras that she has to look at and divide the attention to the kids in front of her. I can't tell you how much work that takes just to do it without massive feedback or having any one of your kids feel ignored. The technology involved alone was immense. The balancing between all the kids, unbelievable. And the prep was unbelievable. To prep every second of your day had a slide with links that had to be accessible. You had to know the kids that were going to be with you Monday, Tuesday. They left and they were not going to see you again until the next Monday, Tuesday. So just the materials that the teacher would need to send home with those kids to learn Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and vice versa. Just the material distribution and the planning and the technology. Unbelievable. I know that our teachers spent 11, 12 hours a day working. I'm not kidding. And most weekends. And I know that because I live with a classroom teacher, my wife, and I saw how hard our teachers worked to make this happen for our kids. So, you know, all the credit, in my opinion, this year to making this actually happen. I know the school committee, Dr. Cabral and Chrissy also spent hours planning all this, fielding all the questions but our teachers are the ones that actually made it happen. And like Ann said, you know, at the beginning of the year, we didn't know how this virus was going to act in school, really, and teachers showed up and they you know, did put their own and their family's health, you know, behind the needs of their students. So to me, that's heroic, and I think that as a collective community, I just hope that people really appreciate and value the work that our teachers did in the classrooms with our kids all year long. So that's that. And Chrissy, next slide. Another hero are the students. The kids are so resilient, and they're way more resilient than we think they are. This is just a snapshot of a day at RO. You can see, if you look closely, this student is doing a science experiment, hands-on, you know, in a mask, distant, and she's working with 4 students on her Chromebook. This is a 9-year-old talking to kids at home and in her classroom, working together on an experiment. They're all using the same materials, which no easy feat, the same objective, and they did it, and they didn't complain. And so, yeah, our kids are also heroes this year. How they adapted to all of this every single day. I didn't hear one complaint from a child about a mask, one, all year. Or one complaint about recess not being as fun, or one complaint about having to sit 6 feet from their friends at lunch. Not one. Our kids came in and just did it, and did it well, and unbelievable resilience, and super proud of them. So those are heroes too. All right, and this is a beautiful sketch that was drawn of me by one of our students at RO, Connor. He gave it to me the other day. So there's my sort of emoji, I guess. So I'm ready for questions and comments. I'm sorry for taking so long, but that's how I roll.
That picture's awesome. Thank you. Any questions, comments? Jackie?
Hi, thank you, Mr. Getchell. I really like this idea of the wind lock, not just because you're not pulling kids out, but I know sometimes kids might feel a little self-conscious about getting pulled out, and so this is the way they can get the supports without maybe other kids knowing what's going on, and I think that's going to be helpful, maybe for kids who don't want to be pulled out. The other question
I mean, because we all need things, right? It's what I need, and everybody needs something. So that's a good point, Jackie.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. You have something in here about RO Structures of Support Committee. Mm-hmm. What is that?
So that was a group of classroom teachers, special ed teachers, paras, myself, who spent a lot of time over the past couple of years restructuring our staff so that our learning specialists can be assigned to classrooms. It's structuring our staff so all of our subgroups get what they need from the right staff. Okay. So there's nothing random about that. So we want to make sure that we have balanced classrooms, heterogeneous classrooms for sure, but we also want to be smart about it because, you know, kids that need speech and language services, for example, if you put those kids in, 25 classrooms and you've got one full-time special speech and language person, then that person can't possibly collaborate with 25 different teachers effectively. And if that doesn't happen, then whatever they're learning in speech, if they're not applying it back in the classroom, then what good is it? So we really work hard at structuring our support with all of our staff so that if any student works with any support staff member, they get a very uniform approach from both the classroom teacher and their support people. So there's a lot of that's what falls under the umbrella of structures of support, and that committee worked on all of that for a lot of time.
That's great. I really like the plan for civic engagement too. I think sometimes a lot of our kids get kind of wrapped up in what's going on in their own little bubble, and I think this is going to be a really nice way to get them to think outside of themselves and see different situations and get more involved in the community. So I really like that as well. I think that's it. Thank you so much.
Anyone else? Jen?
I have to say all of your areas of focus of things that are near and dear to my heart. So it's great to see these all in your planning. I guess I'll focus the comments I think mostly on the first area with co-teaching. It's such a hot topic that came up a lot this year. We heard a lot about it when we were doing the OA principal search. Actually, there were quite a few principals who met with at the high school level who were talking about the benefits of co-teaching and the challenges of implementing that model. So I just want to compliment you on taking that on. It's ambitious and it's hard and it's messy, but I think it's exciting. And just knowing, it's been a long time, not long, but my oldest was at RO a long time ago, and the culture around special education there was night and day from where it is now. So I just want to compliment you. And I know, there's been an evolution of special ed service delivery there over the years, especially with the inclusion model. And I know you have some staff there who've been there for a very long time. So I appreciate their willingness to evolve with how to deliver services. Because again, I know, you may be talking 10 years ago or so, it was a very, very different model. The inclusion was limited to a handful of teachers. And so to be looking at something as ambitious as, really expanding the co-teaching model is, I think, certainly where we need to get to. Just a really compliment you taking that on, because it's a big, big task. Let's see, under SEL, I love those reflection sheets and having help sheets. It's a really nice, especially on a reflection sheet, to see a positive discipline approach. So really love that. And then under the equity partnership, that's all really just, it's so good to see the work that R&K is doing, get into each level of the schools. And thank you for your vulnerability around dealing with things like the N-word and realizing that, practices need to change there, and your willingness to take on stuff that's pretty tough to handle with kids that age. So I think we're in good hands with having great leadership at your school to handle that kind of stuff. So thanks.
Thanks, Jen. And I am so excited about the new building, mostly selfishly because I get to work closer with Tom, Dan, and Sam. I just think we have enormous potential to really build a real strong bridge between K-2 and 3 to 5. We're really, curriculum-wise, we've worked so hard over the years with Lisa and Chrissy to create a more consistent curriculum where we're speaking the same language, we're using the same tools, we have similar conversations, and just having all of K-2 right next door, I mean, the potential is enormous of what we can do together. I'm so excited about where we're going. So, thank you all.
Caroline?
Well, I do want to actually agree with everything that Jackie and Jen both said. I wanted to, I love some of your ideas, and really just I'm so grateful that we have such wonderful leadership in our elementary schools. One of the things I did want to mention is that obviously we're very focused on addressing the social emotional needs of children. But one of the things that I've noticed is that there are a number of children who actually thrived in the remote model. And it was because school for them had been the primary source of their anxiety. So I know that you're well aware that we will have to provide different kinds of supports for those youngsters, as really the only option will be in-person schooling in all likelihood in the fall. There is a group of kids that will find it, that are remaining remote now, that will find it quite anxiety producing to return to in-person learning. I know that you're well aware of that. The other thing I wanted to mention is no doubt there's not enough praise for our teachers during this incredibly challenging time and for the support staff. But I wanted to express my appreciation for you recognizing the resiliency of our children. I think that many adults tend to underestimate how well children can accommodate to difficult circumstances. I think sometimes people underestimate the ability of their own children to do those things. And I'm really happy that you mentioned that our kids are heroes too, for having accommodated themselves to some incredibly difficult and challenging circumstances. Anyway, thank you for all you're doing and all of your great ideas, Chris.
Thank you. Yeah, this was, I'll just end with.
I just want to agree with that. Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead, Nancy.
No, that's all right, Chris. Go ahead. You want to comment?
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, that's just such a huge theme of this year for our kids. Like, the number one lesson is that kids can do hard things. And we've got to teach our kids that, you know, they can do hard things, and they did a hard thing. So that's such a valuable life lesson.
And I agree with what everybody said. And actually, what you just said just right now, Chris, that, you know what? Life is going to throw you things, maybe not the pandemic, maybe not COVID again, or hopefully never again. But, you know, things are hard, and life is part of learning these things as you go through. So this is actually for all four principals, because I love the fact that you're going to deal with social and emotional feelings and ideas, and you've got that all in your plans, and I love it. But I also hope, and I think I got the gist that you're all going to do this, that, you know, the kids have lost 15 months of academics, and I shouldn't say it like that, because they haven't, but just that regular school when it comes back in September, that kids, you know, they're going to be on every single level of the playing field. And that, I agree with what Caroline said. These kids are heroes, the teachers are heroes, and I'm so happy that all you principals are so dedicated to our children in Easton. And your teachers too. So thank you very much. The other thing for Chris, do you have a date for the Lindley plaque dedication?
No, you know, we've been preparing the circle. It's beautiful. What we planted last year is blooming. We are weeding it, making it ready. I got to reach out to Rich McGee, who presented to you. I've got to reach out to him to find out when that plaque's coming. He knows that, you know, the plan is to have a small ceremony when that goes in, particularly for friends of Lindley, kids that knew her, played with her. So we don't yet have a date, but I will follow up with Rich on that.
Thank you very much. I would appreciate that.
All set, Nancy? And I just wanted to build off of something Caroline said. At least I don't think of social emotional as always a negative, like trying to help a child in crisis. I think you have that built into all three of your goals. You have it built into goal 1 when you're talking about inclusion, and then you have it in a more traditional sense in goal 2, and also in the equity component of goal 3. And it's all about making every child feel equally valued and respected and have a place in that community. And that doesn't have to mean that they're in crisis to have that. It's just that culture and climate. And I commend you for actually working that into all three of the goals. All right.
Great job, Mr. Getchell. Very good, thank you. And I think, you know, we worked very hard on our district improvement goals as a team in our district strategic plan, which we presented right before the shutdown of the world. And we had every intention of really publicizing that this year. But we will be doing that starting in the fall with our core values and our strategic objectives. But we haven't let it sit on a back burner. All of these goals from all of the 4 presentations you've seen are a direct result of our 4 strategic objectives as a district. And so we're keeping them going. We're keeping that document alive. It isn't just on a shelf checking a box off that we got it done. We may extend it for a year. It's set to expire in 2024. We may extend it a year, but not because we haven't been working on it, but just because we want to make sure everybody's well aware of it, works this language into their vernacular with their children, with each other, even within the community, because we feel as though, you know, we did this pre-COVID, and these were areas that we were working on that really were just highlighted or even exacerbated by COVID. But this team really worked well together with the secondary team and really had their finger on the pulse of what was happening with our kids and what they needed. You know, our 4 strategic objectives of student achievement, we made it clear in the action steps that go with it that that was for every student. And the whole goal toward equity and access and inclusion is included in that. Student and educator wellness, the social and emotional needs, both proactively and reactively for both students and our staff. The curriculum development, which has been continued and revamped, and we're working on it through that equity lens, making sure that it is inclusive and comprehensive for all students. And the educator excellence, making sure that they have the supports that they need, that they have the resources they need. Those were 4 goals that honestly you could see coming from the pandemic as necessary, and they were created before. And so we were fortunate to have that foci in place for those areas as we were going into the pandemic. And these leaders, just like the secondary leaders you heard from at our last meeting, have just done an exemplary job of making sure that they have moved that forward effectively, and they have kept that alive, and we will continue to, as I said, to 2025 when we revisit that. We think it's important to keep the goals for a period because we don't want it to just be something that is on, as I said, on a shelf that we sort of get done and never reference. We know that these are big, all-encompassing, daunting goals, and we want to give ourselves the time and the patience and the resources to get them accomplished, and we will get them all accomplished, and then we will advance them and move forward. So it's exciting for us because we know sort of where that came from and where it's going, but we will be sure that everybody is aware of that. As we go into the fall. That's one of the things we're going to be working on as a team this summer, is how we're going to make sure that everybody understands that the things we're doing, we're not just reacting to circumstances or events. These are things that we've really put a lot of thought, effort. We're focusing our financial resources, our emotional resources, our human resources to really getting these things accomplished, and we will. We're going to be successful with it, and it's because of this great team, their leadership, and of course our everyday heroes. And so for that, I want to thank the school committee because you were great supporters of that plan, and also for this team for creating that and for keeping it alive, as I said.
Okay, so we need to vote on these. Do we vote on them separately?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I would like to make a motion to accept the pre-K to 2 school improvement plan.
Star, second.
Roll call vote. Durant, yes.
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
Okay, and then I'd like to make a motion to accept the Richardson Olmsted School Improvement Plan. Do I have a second?
O'Neill
Wiseman, second.
All right, roll call vote.
O'Neill, yes.
Durant, yes.
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
Excellent, thank you. And thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Next up is professional status recommendations. Dr. Cabral?
So for those who are not familiar with professional teaching status, it is a great milestone in the education, in the education arena for educators. This is something that was enacted with legislation back in the 90s that essentially got rid of what people are probably familiar with as tenure. And this is it's the first day of an educator's fourth year. They can enter what's called professional teacher status, or PTS. This is something that marks that they are officially through what some might consider a probationary period, a development period, if you will. It has implications both in the contract for rights and responsibilities, but it's also just a ceremonial sort of welcome, a permanent welcome to the community. They have, at that point, hopefully worked through issues, confusion, implemented changes, suggestions, recommendations, feedback from, they've had an official mentor at that point, as well as their administration. And so this is, it's always a place of pride, or a source of honor for educators to achieve this. It only comes, as I said, in that first day of the fourth year, but it also only comes with the explicit recommendation of the principal who's been working with that person for the prior 3 years. I talked about this earlier today, I think, with someone in a different industry. It seems like 3 years is a long time. However, in any other position, after 6 months or a year, that's actually quite a while to be in one role. And you really, at that point, can determine if someone is ready to move on, if they really are ready to be considered a permanent member of the community. Teaching and education administration is very different. The entire school year is a series of one-offs. What happens in the fall, the first day of school is only one first day of school. Parent-teacher conferences, there's only one of those in the beginning. There's another one in the middle of the year, which has completely different makeup and a completely different set of circumstances and things that you're looking at and discussing with parents. The units you teach, you only do one time. So after the third year, you've really only done everything 3 times total. And so it really does take that long for people to be invested in a system. And the thing that is unusual about it in Easton is that we actually mark this with a very nice ceremony. This usually takes place in person. It was remote this year for obvious reasons. We hope for it to be in person again this coming October. It happens in October of every year. And we come together and the principals write a very nice message about each of the educators who they have recommended for professional teacher status. At that point, I accept those recommendations and those teachers are considered PTS, or at that point, professional. And so I would just like to announce the teachers that have been recommended for this honor by their principals and that we will be recognizing in October at our professional teacher status reception. At Center School, Adriana Johnson, art teacher. At Easton Middle School, Nancy Cochran, school nurse. Laura Daly, special education teacher. Zachary Dyer, English teacher. Christine Hochstein, world language teacher. Nicole Kelly, special education teacher. Michaela Latour, a special education teacher. And Hannah Walsh, science teacher. At Oliver Ames High School, Tanner Kranick, math teacher. Justin Tienhara, PE teacher, physical education. At Parkview School, Danielle Winterstein, special education teacher. And at the Richardson Olmsted School, Amanda Bray, grade 3 teacher. Ashley Chesworth, special education teacher. And Victoria Cleaver, special education teacher. So we wish to congratulate these professionals and welcome them into the professional teacher cohort and look forward to honoring them in October. That list is in your packets, and that does not require a vote of the school committee, but we will of course be sending you an invitation and hope you'll join us along with their families and colleagues who always show up and help us celebrate this recognition.
Thank you. That is always such a really nice ceremony. Okay, next up, discussion and vote to change the date of August 19th, 2021 meeting. Did you want to speak to this, Dr. Cabral?
Sure, we do have some vacations that are taking place in the summer, as you may or may not be aware, but probably surmise. Pretty much no one on the leadership team took any vacation time last year. So we are really encouraging people to do that this year, to take at least a week, maybe 2 weeks, and spend some time with their families and kind of decompressing after such a crazy year. So it does turn out that we do have a couple of administrators who are going to be on vacation August 19th. And if it's possible, we request that you consider rescheduling the school committee meeting that is scheduled for that evening.
Okay. So I don't know if people are able to look at their calendars. I don't know if you have any ideas. I was going to toss out either the 5th or sometime the week of the 26th, like the 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th.
Those all seem to be fine on the school side.
The school committee members. Any of those dates work for you guys?
As of right now, either date works for me.
Nancy?
I was just gonna say, I would probably recommend or suggest August 26th, because our next one after that is September 9th. So I'm thinking August 26th is closer to the beginning of school. We do have a meeting on, what was it, July 22nd, which is July 22nd. And then we don't have another one till August 19th. So maybe we should do it the 12th, because that will maybe it should be the 12th because those are closer together.
I'm away the 12th.
Okay, so the 26th is fine with me.
I mean, you could certainly do it, Jen could run it if you guys really wanted the 12th, but otherwise I wouldn't be there. The 26th,
No,
I'm in the as
it's
well.
not like last year where we were meeting all the time in those groups and everything. Hopefully, this is gonna be a normal summer, that we get ready for a normal September. So I don't know that, it's gonna make a big difference in August or not.
Knocking on wood, Nancy.
Either date
I
is
know you
fine
just
with me.
jinxed us. I don't know if you saw my face. I'm like,
I did that, I did the year close, so that's not a jinx.
Jackie, I didn't really hear you. You said.
Either date is fine with me.
Hey,
yeah,
Carolyn. I can't hear you.
Carolyn.
I keep muting and unmuting myself. I do think the 26th would be better, just because it is closer to the start of school, and also we'll have a better idea of whether or not there are lingering concerns related to the virus at that point that will need to be addressed.
That makes sense. And honestly, if for some reason something really extraordinary comes up, I think we can request a special meeting and post it, obviously, and hold it sometime before that if necessary.
And we need to vote on this?
Yes, it's your schedule. You need to vote on it, and then we will post it.
So I'm gonna make a motion that we change the August 19th, 2021 meeting to August 26th, 2021. Do I have a second?
O'Neill, second.
All right, roll call vote.
O'Neill, yes.
Durant, yes?
Yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Vote to approve changes of the 2021-2022 school calendar. Dr. Cabral?
As much as we try, every year there's something that comes up that has an impact on the schedule, unfortunately. Fortunately, we are in June, and this is obviously a schedule that doesn't start until September. And what we are looking to change is in November and in May. So hopefully this is ample time for planning purposes. The first request is that I think last year or the year before, we actually separated the conference days for secondary and elementary. And we need to make sure that we continue that. The high school works in quarters, and then the elementary and middle school work in trimesters. And it really is very important for the educators that these are timed at a place where they have enough information about students that they can have coaching conversations and make salient recommendations, give feedback that makes sense to parents, and they know the children well. And also parents really like to have this information around the time that report cards are going to be coming out. So we need to just add, or we need to create a half day for grades 9 through 12 in November. And we are suggesting that that takes place on November 18th. Instead of a full day, it's going to be an early release day just for grades 9 through 12 for their parent conferences. And then in May, you may remember that we have student placement every May. Student placement here, it's very thorough, and it's done an excellent job by the elementary team. Every single child, literally in pre-K to grade 5, is looked at individually for placement in the next year. I know as a parent, when my children were that age, you're very excited to know who your child is being assigned to, and that's always a really exciting time of year to get that information. For the staff, it is done. It probably seems like it's a quick distribution of names, but honestly, the staff, you heard Mr. Getchell and the early elementary team speaking earlier this evening. It's very involved. They need to make sure that the specialists work very closely and have the opportunity and time to meet with classroom teachers for continuity of services. It doesn't make sense to just grab kids and give them a one-off of an intervention or speech therapy or something that the teacher has no idea what's happening because they're out of the classroom, and then it's never reinforced in the classroom or really reinforced with parents so that it can be done at home. So in order to have that comprehensive all-around approach, we need to make sure that we're placing students not in like cohorts, like all of the speech students always need to be together, for example, but we do keep them in reasonable sizes. At the Richardson Olmsted School, we tend to keep them in the same pods, for example, just because geographically it makes sense for specialists to work with certain teams. special education services, and so forth. We really maximize the staff that we have. You're very well aware of the fact that we are working with, we are frankly understaffed everywhere, so we're working with very little, and we're still providing a stellar experience, honestly, with that. And so because of that, and because every single child is looked at individually by the team and hand placed in classrooms, in addition, of course, we want to make sure that there is not an overwhelming gender difference or an overwhelming difference in ages or in needs, as I stated. So we want to make sure students are placed with friends. Sometimes they need to not be placed with certain friends. And so all of this takes place on the placement day. So it's obviously a very important day. And for that reason, we make it a half day. Next year, and the high school always requests a half day for prom. Now, I understand that too, and I know that that's extremely important to students and some parents of seniors or underclassmen as well. However, for educational purposes, obviously one clearly trumps the other, and that is the placement of the students. So what I have done in the last several years is I have really encouraged the high school. They have plenty of advance notice. We let them know when placement day is going to be. The later in May, the better. And the reason for that is we can make sure we have as much data, data and information on all students as possible. The testing that takes place in the spring can be completed and analyzed before that happens. So this year, for example, it was May 21st. Next year, it's scheduled for May 20th. The short end to this long story is that next year, this year, because COVID canceled the prom, unfortunately, the students were not able to receive their full refund. In fact, the venue held on to $5,000, which is a great amount of money for the senior class. We were able to negotiate it down to $5,000. But secondly, we were able to negotiate it as a credit if this year or the coming year's senior class held it at the same venue. Well, unfortunately, the only date they have available is May 13th. So, and we had previously scheduled placement day for May 20th. So the short end of this is that we spoke to the elementary principals. We were assured that they would plan accordingly from the very beginning of the year so that they would have all the information they needed by May 13th to have a placement day. And then, of course, going forward, I've already spoken to the high school principal, Mrs. Kavanaugh. Of course, going forward, they will, if they want a half day for prom, they will be scheduling it after placement day has been scheduled to coincide so that they have a half day. So I just wanted to make sure you understood the whole story and why we were doing it. I didn't want to just say we were changing it for prom because that isn't our practice, as you know, but that's the reason for it. And so we want to make those two changes to the calendar, publicize that as soon as possible. I hate doing multiple versions because, you know, sometimes people print it out, they post it somewhere and they're not sure which iteration it is, but we hope to publicize this enough that people will know this is the most up-to-date and hopefully final version of the calendar for next year. As I said, with plenty of time to go for people to plan accordingly. So since you do vote on the calendar, you would need to vote on those proposed changes as well.
Any questions? Now, can we vote on this together or do you want them separate?
You can vote on them together.
Hopefully I say this right.
You're voting on the calendar, not necessarily each date. So you're voting on the calendar as a whole as it's now proposed to you, and it includes those two dates.
Okay. So I make a motion to vote on the 2021 to 2022 proposed calendar with changes as noted. Have a second?
Good, second.
All right, roll call vote.
O'Neill, yes.
Durant, yes?
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
All right, thank you. All right, next up. So a discussion and possible vote on bus route radius and pay to ride program. Dr. Kabot?
So on August 6th, this committee was essentially forced to vote on changes to our transportation program. Because of the very strict guidelines and the social distancing required on school buses, we really did not have the opportunity to add buses to the fleet. We had to work with the 17 that we've always worked with. And so you voted to change the radius for eligibility for busing, and also to suspend the pay and ride program, which means that students who are within the radius that is not eligible for busing could actually pay to ride the bus. Now that has obviously changed. We anticipate that those guidelines will remain the same if there are no changes to the trajectory of the virus over the summer or next year. And so we're asking that we go back to exactly what we had before COVID, which is that we will reinstitute the pay and ride program, and that we will change it back from a 2-mile eligibility to 1.5 miles. So that means those families that were between 1.5 miles and 2 miles can now ride the bus. And parents who are not within the radius of 1.5 miles can opt to pay to ride the bus. And we will use the same procedure for collecting the information, payment, everything will be the same as it was prior to the 19-20 school year. And we are very happy about that. We think that it will first and foremost be far more convenient for families, which of course is important, but it will also help relieve some of the traffic congestion that we have obviously experienced on the main campus particularly, but really at all 3 sites of our schools. So we are again asking to bring back the exact busing policy that we had prior to COVID, because we have the relaxed social distancing guidelines right now. And again, you voted to change that during COVID. We're asking for you to vote to change it back.
Any questions or comments? Jen?
Sure. So, our budget, is assuming that this is in place, right? There's no change to the budget. It's the same number of buses, et cetera. Got it. Okay.
This is actually a revenue source for us that we did not have last year. It actually creates revenue. And the revenue from the pay and ride program, I don't know if you remember, but the revenue from the pay and ride program provides the after-school bus at the middle school and the high school.
Yeah, so that was my second question, is that would we then also, are we also planning to offer those?
Yes, absolutely.
Great, okay.
Mhm.
Anyone else?
Oh, I will add, I'm sorry, the pre-K to 2 schools are all eligible for busing as well. That's always been the case without pay and ride, because of the nature of the streets that they're on and the danger of walking there.
Nobody else? Okay. So can it just be as simple as a motion to return to the previous?
Yes,
so
or it can be, yes, it can, yes. Sorry.
Okay. Well, that's fine. So I make a motion that we return to the pre-COVID busing radiuses and pay to ride program that we had in place up until COVID, and have that effective for the 2021-2022 school year.
Correct.
Yeah.
Wiseman, second.
All right, roll call vote.
O'Neill, yes.
Durant, yes.
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Great. District updates, Dr. Cabral.
Thanks. And I have superintendent notes as well. But I'll start with the district updates. First of all, I know we're all following what is being recommended for what school will be like in the fall. As of right now, as far as the commissioner knows, of course, is what we all know now of the virus as it is currently. And that is that he anticipates we may have mask wearing in the fall. But aside from that, we should have full days, full schedules, and minimal, if any, social distancing. So we don't anticipate, again, anticipate in capital letters, we don't anticipate any restrictions to sports, youth sports, activities, transportation, etc. We have been told again that be prepared. We may need to wear masks, but hopefully even that is for a short amount of time. The question is not just, of course, the virus variants like the new Delta variant, for example, but also as the vaccine is released for children, how many parents may be electing to have their children receive the vaccine. By some reports, of course, I'm sure people are following this closely, so I know that they're probably aware of this information, but by many reports, we do not anticipate reaching quote unquote herd immunity in this country unless at least 50% of all children are vaccinated. We understand that is a complex consideration for parents and a difficult decision to make. There are potential complications from the vaccine, potential complications from the virus itself. So I understand that it is a difficult choice. And so it's really hard, as you can imagine, to predict exactly how many parents will be getting their children vaccinated. That is likely to make a big difference of how we re-enter school in the fall. So based on how things are right now, again, the masking, hopefully for a short amount of time, but whether that changes or not is probably going to rely heavily on any new strains and, of course, how many children are ultimately vaccinated. Clearly, we can see how many things are opening due to adult vaccinations, so the same would hold true for children. I would anticipate much more lenient or lax restrictions, if any, if a high percentage of students are vaccinated. If they aren't, then we would expect more protections to be in place. And we'll be ready for either, regardless. We have no information at this point that the vaccine will be mandatory. Certainly, if that is the case, we will let people know as soon as possible, but we have heard no indication or speculation that that is a consideration at this point. And certainly we do not have any intention of making it mandatory if it isn't mandatory at the state or federal level. So we will keep an eye on that, of course. We will periodically send reminders to people throughout the summer, even if there are no changes, just to let them know that at this point there are no changes. And of course, we'll keep the school committee up to date as well. Okay, and just again, in case maybe people aren't paying attention to that, Pfizer and Moderna have both announced this week that they believe they will be in a good posture to release the vaccination for children 5 and older, either in August or September. So of course, it will be a last minute thing like everything else right before school opens. So we probably won't have the information until then, but that looks to be the most updated information as of this evening. Certainly could change tomorrow. Cases, I'm very encouraged to say, we have had no staff cases in several weeks. We did have 2 student cases this week, and we had 2 student cases last week. So you can see that those are down quite a bit as well. Of course, all of that information is posted on our website in real time. We put it on every Wednesday and Thursday. They're updated. Wednesday is our information and Desi's information is updated, and Thursday we update the information from the state. It comes out at 5 p.m., so I always do it after school committee because obviously we start at 5 p.m. But it is encouraging, and the cases in Easton are down as well. So it's exciting. This is going to be the case when people are more outdoors. And hopefully this is a big change for all of us. And then we also have some changes in where classes are going to be held next year. I do want to let you know that we were able to post for a 0.6 English language teacher. We're very excited to say that. It wasn't guaranteed, but like I said, it takes a while for us to figure it out. And what we did to make that happen was that we eliminated 2 proposed positions this year. So 2 professionals are not losing positions. It was proposed positions for an ELA interventionist and a math interventionist, which, as you've heard in many of the elementary presentations, are what we use, who we use to try to backfill skills, help students proactively fill in skills before we consider testing for perhaps special education designation or a disability. It is obviously, they are important positions. However, we know that the 0.6 EL is as well. So we were able to meet with the leadership team, see how we might be able to shift some staff, shift some scheduling. It is not ideal, of course, but we're making the best out of what is a bad situation. We are very minimally funded, and so I don't want to make it seem as though I'm saying those interventionist positions were not necessary. They were, but looking at our numbers, looking at our services, looking at the levels of the EL students coming up, we don't know, of course, what the needs of our kindergartners coming in is going to be. And so we are adding the 0.6 EL, and that has already been posted. Now, that, of course, again, was necessary because we don't know what to expect for our kindergarten and grade 1 classes this year. We're already where we would want to be for class sizes. We anticipate we're going to have an influx of registrations. That happens every year, honestly, because you have, Massachusetts still does not have kindergarten required. And because it's not compulsory, many parents will either send their children to daycare or maybe a private kindergarten, or they just won't send them to school at all for that year. They have reasons that are personal. Maybe they are educating them on their own. Maybe they feel their child is not yet socially ready. I'm sure they're all valid reasons, but what happens is every year we have students registering literally the week before school, sometimes the week of school, sometimes the week after school starts. If you think about a family that their oldest child is going to school for the first time, they really aren't familiar with the process. And certainly this past March and April, they probably weren't thinking about their child going to pre-K or kindergarten in September. And that's when we do our registration and our orientation and so forth, so that we can try to plan for the budget. Well, obviously that doesn't jive with real life for a lot of people. And so sometimes they think about kindergarten really towards the end of the summer. And that's when we see a lot of registrations. Why is this year different? Well, because of COVID, many more parents than usual kept their children home. And if their child didn't come to our preschool, we frankly have no idea that those kids exist. We don't even know that they're here in Easton. Even if their parents have been living here for many, many years, we have no way of knowing that there is a child in that home. We are not privy to that information. We can't get that information anywhere. So Unless they make themselves known, we honestly don't know they're there. So because of that, we did need to increase our a grade 1 section, as you know. A veteran teacher took that grade 1 position. That teacher was a grade 2 teacher, and so that's why we advertised a grade 2 position. Well, because of that, those numbers were highest at Parkview School. And so because of that, we then had to take a look at where we scheduled our district programs. So this is something we do every year. Obviously, first grade at Parkview is first grade at Parkview because it's a neighborhood school. Second grade at Moreau is second grade at Moreau because it's a neighborhood school. However, half-day kindergarten, all pre-K, and our special education programs are all considered district programs. And every year at this exact time, we look at enrollment and we place them accordingly. For next year, for example, our special education programs are going to be at the center school. So any child that is, go ahead, Mrs. Pruitt, sorry.
It's at Moreau Hall.
The foundations program?
Oh, I'm sorry, nothing.
It's okay. Foundations, skills, they are at center school for next year. They were there this year. Prior to that, they were at different schools. It really depends on where the majority of the teachers are, and we truly like to keep the programs together if we can, because we have specialists that work with those students, and it's easier. Obviously makes sense to keep them in one building. So the special education programs will be at center school. The kindergarten, the pre-K programs, there will be 3 half-day programs at Moreau Hall. All of the half-day programs will be at Moreau Hall. There's 1 p.m. half-day and 2 a.m. half-days. For the last, I want to say 3 or 4 years, the AM kindergarten has been only in one school because the numbers are so small for those sections that we need to keep them in one school. For example, if we have one full-time teacher who's teaching AM and PM, those 2 sections need to be in one school. It also is candidly, it's also it's also best practice for the educators to be teaching together. If you're a half-day kindergarten teacher, that's very different than full-day kindergarten. And having the half-day teachers working together in the same school is much better in terms of sharing resources, in terms of the teachers working together, helping one another, collaborating. It's a much better experience for the children. So the 3 half-day programs that are scheduled right now are going to be at Moreau Hall. And then
Dr. Cabral,
yes,
I'm very sorry. I do have one correction.
sure.
The skills and foundations programs for K through 2 are at Parkview next year, not center.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, it is the TLC program that's at center.
Thank you very much. That's important. And then at the center school, we're going to have the 2 full-day pre-K programs.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Mrs. Pruitt.
It gets very confusing because, you know,
We change it every year.
but
and we
these do
don't-
change, because they're district programs, they do change regularly due to where there is space available.
And honestly, depending on what happens over the summer, it's possible it could change again.
Right.
Unfortunately, we are, before Mrs. Pruitt goes through it with you, we are completely at capacity for space. Obviously, that's why we have the new school taking place, the new school project. We are at capacity for space. And so something as simple as needing another grade 2 classroom at Parkview means we have to shuffle where classes are going to be. If the enrollment changes over the summer, and we need to move classes, we're going to have to do that again, unfortunately. We regret that because we know that it is a hardship for parents. We're very well aware of that. And sometimes we have people withdraw because of that. We completely understand. Sometimes we have people add to the program because it turns out to be more convenient for them. Unfortunately, it's just not something we can control.
Right.
That's part of the problem of having 3 different neighborhood schools and having programs that have a very small amount of students. There's no way we could run them at every school. So unfortunately, when you're holding something at one school, there's always going to be 2 other schools that are inconvenienced. And we realize that fortunately, it's only for another year, and then we'll be in the new building. And so we'll be able to mitigate that. However, we do have another year to get through this. And again, this is not new. This happens every year. And like I said, sometimes over the summer, we need to change things. But we tell people as soon as possible. We try to assist them as much as we can. But it is simply not something we can control, unfortunately. Mrs. Pruitt.
Okay, so as of today, June 10th, and I say that, you know, not lightly because it is a moving target, unfortunately. This, as you all know, this has been an unprecedented year. You know, we use that term regularly now, and with enrollment, if enrollment does increase, we may need to switch the program again. It is all dependent on numbers. So right now, for K through 2, the skills and foundation program are at Parkview, and they will remain at Parkview. The TLC program, the therapeutic learning program for K through 2, is at Center School. For preschool, there is no preschool program at Center School currently. We have the Skills and Foundations preschool programs at Parkview. Because of that, it is we have our full day programs there as well. We have more opportunities for integration when all the full day programs are together. So that is why they will be stationed at Parkview. The half day programs, it's best if they are kept together so that they can plan together. And because of that, we are having them at Moreau Hall, and that is 2 a.m. classes and 1 p.m. class. So that is the plan as of June 10th, 2021.
Honestly, that was my understanding. So I thought that's what I said. So it was more of a slip of the tongue than a slip of the brain, unfortunately. So I apologize for any confusion.
Those are the pre-K programs.
Yes, yes. Because the pre-K programs are district-wide, even if your child is, even if you live in a Parkview neighborhood, you know, a neighborhood where your kids would traditionally go to Parkview, they can go to Moreau, Parkview, or Center because it is a district program. We just currently don't have a preschool program at Center right now, nor will we next year. And, you know, the benefit is that I know some preschool parents are looking forward to having their child in a school that they may attend the following year. But even if they are attending the following year, it's not for long because they will be moving into the new building. So unfortunately, this class of preschoolers will be fortunately, I should say, but unfortunately for the parents of the preschool students, this is the last class that will have to go, you know, we'll have to kind of figure out which school they're going to. Thankfully, it'll in the future, it'll just be one school with no movement.
And again, this isn't new. Sadly, we've had to do this for several years now. The good thing or another positive is that we're really just talking about the building, because once everyone's in the same building, the students, no matter what school they're coming from, are coming with the same children, the same staff, the same administrator. All the administrators will be there. You heard this evening, and you hear frequently, that the systems that we have in place, the language that we use, they're consistent across the 3 schools, and that's going to be even more so in the coming year. You heard the theme of unity. That is their goal, is to get them all on the same frequency, if you will, this school year. Physically, they're in 3 different buildings, but operationally doing things the same. So other than the physical structure of the building, the people, the protocols, the rules, the verbiage, it will all be the same when they move to the new school together. And, you know, for little ones, they really go to a very small area of the school. We keep them in wings, and they would go to a different wing of that same school in the next year, which for a small child, even though it's in the same building, it does look very different. It's a much different place. Kindergartners really go over to the 2nd grade wing. And so we did talk about the resilience of children tonight, and I'm confident that they'll be really, really fine with this. It's the concern about, you know, parent inconvenience that we have. And we understand that, but we simply have no control over it, unfortunately.
Is that it?
That's it for district updates, yes.
Public comments? Oh, Nancy, I'm sorry.
Hi. So I'm happy to see that the 0.6 EL teacher was posted, and I'm very happy about that. Thank you. I'm sorry that the 2 interventionists were eliminated. And I'm hoping as we travel through this budget, because you have told us a million times that everything is fluid and things happen and so forth. But if, you know, there is money to bring back the interventionist, great. If there's, I would even say more importantly, if there's money to make a full-time EL teacher, that would be even better. So thank you for doing that. And I know, thank you for explaining all that pre-K and K and 1 and 2, because every year it is, you know, your child is going to school for the first time, and you'd like to, you know, my other children all went to one school, so I want this one to go to that school. And I know it happens, and we are very fortunate that the new school will be coming, and we can just, you know, get rid of all this stuff. So thank you very much for the update.
Anyone else have a comment or a question? No? Okay, public comments?
So the public comments, there's actually 3 from the same person and 1 from someone who did not put her address, so I can't read that one. The 3 from the same person are about the preschool, and so it's Amy Duffy, 178 Washington Street. I know that some of these were answered, but I just want to share her concern and her question around wondering why parents were not involved in the decision making. So I'll read hers. It says, in regards to the recent changes in the preschool program, I felt very blindsided by the email that was sent to parents. Moving full day pre-K from Moreau to Parkview was stated to help ease the transition to the new school, but that is not until 2023 and does not affect the kids this coming school year. I picked Moreau Hall full day since my son is currently in that class and will be attending another year of pre-K, but also will attend kindergarten. When the discussion was started about moving the program around, why weren't the parents who were already registered and paid the deposits notified? I wish they had been more transparent with the process. I don't understand why they're trying to unify the half day at one school and full day at another. I do feel that pickup will be more difficult at Parkview when you have 2 full day classes being picked up there. Can you explain more why these changes are happening? Sorry, my question was long. You're muted, Dr. Cabral.
Yes, I think I answered that, but please feel free to add another question or ask for more specific detail if I did not, please.
And so then Ann Sullivan, 65 Summer Street, says, why were parents not included in the preschool half-day change? We were given no options, no considerations to keep siblings together in the same school.
I understand that, and sadly, we absolutely have no choices. Certainly, if a deposit was made and the choice is made to withdraw a child, certainly that would be returned if they choose to do that. And if someone would like to be added to a class now that it's changed or be put on a waiting list, that can also be done. But we have no way of, we just have no way of predicting how many students will be enrolling in any particular grade. And as you can see here, even things like second or first grade classes can have an effect on kindergarten and pre-K, unfortunately. Is that all?
Oh, there's one more. Ann Sullivan, 65 Summer Street. Why weren't we given the option to stay in the school we chose?
I'm not sure what grade this is for.
This is for preschool.
If it's for preschool, if your child is in a if you've chosen half-day pre-K for your child, that's only in one school. So there isn't a choice. And if you've chosen full-day pre-K for your child, that's only in one school, a different school. So there isn't a choice, unfortunately. And there is a choice between half-day and full-day. So I'm not sure. Maybe I understand the question.
And Ann Sullivan, 65 Summer Street, said there was a choice when we applied. I think the choice was, unfortunately, the choice was, the choice should have been about the program, not about the school. And because that does happen, our schools aren't concrete until the opening.
At that point, there was a choice. We had them in 2 different schools, and now we don't because we needed the classrooms for space. So we don't have a choice, and so unfortunately, the parents don't have a choice. It's a space issue and an enrollment issue, and we have no control over it. We can't offer full day in 2 different or 3 different schools, and we can't offer half day in 2 different or 3 different schools until the new building that is unfortunately going to continue to plague us. And I realize, you know, we have parents that are bringing their children to school for the first time, so it may be their very first experience. And so they may not realize that this is something that happens every year, but this does happen every year. Unfortunately, we have parents that have this issue every year, and we will until we have one building.
Yes, and we did do this at Center last year. The class was slated to go to Center School and was moved to Parkview over
It
the
happens
summer.
every single year. Yeah, and I mean, you think about staff too. I'm obviously you're concerned about, you know, your family and your children. We understand that completely, but this is a hardship on staff as well. Staff thinks that they're in one building, and then, you know, a couple days left with school, they realize they're in a whole different place. Different colleagues, different school, different administrator, different classroom. It unfortunately happens every year. We certainly would avoid it if we could, but we simply cannot.
So Amy Duffy, 178 Washington Street, said, will teachers be moving with the schools? And they do move with their classes.
Yeah, it depends. Sometimes we just have to be clear. There is a process of seniority, and if there are openings, teachers within the bargaining contract can choose to change, but it's the anticipation they will move. The only reason they wouldn't move is if something shuffles and they take on a different position. But again, that's nothing that we control, and that happens every year. That's the collective bargaining process, and the teachers do have the right to do that.
Is that it for questions?
That's it.
Okay. Superintendent notes, Dr. Cabral.
Okay, just a couple more things. First of all, it is, as it is the end of the year, I am the only person in a district, maybe most of the world, that has a public evaluation process and report, which is perfectly fine. It should be as transparent as possible. I am finishing my report. Of course, you accepted my goals in the beginning of the year. I am preparing a report of the deliverables and what has been completed over the course of the year. I will be submitting that to you. What I did last year, and of course, Desi has been changing the process pretty much each year since it came out. So this year it seems to be relatively stable. What they did release was they're actually, they're putting out focus points for educators next year. We haven't even had the opportunity to really provide the professional development on this to staff yet, but they are providing focus points or areas within that large matrix that we use that they want us to focus on. And so it narrows it down a little bit, but that would be the goals for next year. In terms, I don't think they're doing that for superintendents though. So it may be stable for next year for your purposes of evaluating me. However, last year this took 2 school committee meetings. In one meeting, I considered it presenting my report to you, but it sort of felt like reading it to you. So what I thought I would do this time is prepare the report, send it to you, and then you could let us know if you want to have a meeting or a workshop for me, publicly, of course, posted and televised and recorded, for me to present them if there were any questions or clarifying questions that you had before you work on your draft of the report. That way, if there weren't any questions, and there really weren't any last time, then perhaps we could go to the next meeting, and it would be one school committee meeting at which you would share your information and you prepare your report, the chair puts it together, and you would share the determinations publicly, because you cannot just, as you know, present the report to me. It has to be presented publicly, and then we post it on the website. So if that's okay with you, I thought we might try that. And I will get that report to you as soon as possible, because of course we want this completed in July. And the only other thing I would, no, I think that's it. I think the only other thing I wanted to talk about was summer, well, I want to kick it over to Mrs. Pruitt for Assistant Superintendent notes. She's going to give you an update on summer school. I just wanted to note that the last day of pre-K and kindergarten is tomorrow. The last day for all students, of course, is Thursday the 17th. All senior events are completed. We're getting there, folks. We're getting there. We have a huge summer school program this year, though, different than any other year. And Mrs. Pruitt will discuss that. But something I wanted to put on your calendars is that every year, you know, we have the new teacher orientation program. It is scheduled this year for August 23rd and 24th. Kristen Marani, the extraordinary English teacher at the high school who coordinates that program, typically invites you to one or both sessions. So I just wanted to kind of get, I guess this is a save the date thing. And a quick thing is that the Ames project is going very well. We did post a live camera that is available on the Blanche Ames Elementary School website. As of today, there are now 3 camera angles. So you can really get your fill, very big brother-ish, which is wonderful because you're going to get to see it over time. They're mounted on very tall poles, and so you get kind of a bird's eye view of what's happening, and you'll be able to track that development over time. They are photos. It's kind of a weird thing. It's not like, you know, like the view of the zoo where you can kind of see the giraffe being born. It's kind of like stills and you have to move them across, but that's almost a little better because you kind of see the time lapse. So Bright Brothers did make that available to us. We're very thankful to them. And if you'd like to see that, it's a fun thing to maybe watch over the summer or check in even weekly, something like that with your children, see the progress of the new building. They are really moving along. We actually have some footings and foundations already in place and grease traps, which sounds really exciting, but those are in. So they hope to have the actual outer structure where it's kind of looking like a school in October or November. So it's very ambitious and super exciting. So when people are coming back to school, you're actually going to see walls up. Right now, there are some tall poles there. If you're curious about that, you're in the neighborhood and you see it, those are actually the footings for the staircases. Shortly after that, you're going to start seeing the elevator shafts going up. So just if you want to keep track of that, it is very exciting. We're getting there. We're getting there. We're getting there. And I think that's it for tonight. I'm gonna actually move it over to Chrissy so she can do her assistant superintendent notes if you don't mind. She can start with the summer school update.
Thank you. So we are really excited this year to be able to offer a summer program, like Dr. Cabral said, like no other. This is really important to note that this is separate from the ESY program, which is the extended year program that children typically participate in due to the services on their individualized IEP plan. So for families that typically participate in summer school through ESY, that will continue. And in fact, there are additional students that have been referred for that program. This program, K through 8, we are calling the Summer Enrichment Academy. As Dr. Cabral stated, we have made the acronym SEA. So as Dr. Cabral stated, we like to have our kids spend the summer at the sea. So, so we're using that theme and really looking at it as a project-based approach to prevent summer slide. So we do not anticipate being able to necessarily fill gaps that there may be, but in fact, actually really focus on making sure and ensuring that our students do not have the summer slide. The first round of registration was for families that the students were referred by their teachers due to some academic difficulties, and this is all K through 8. 9 through 12, I'll tell you about after that. So they were referred by their teachers, and notices did go out via school messenger or through email to parents to have their children enroll in the program. The due date for enrollment is Tuesday. However, at this time, we have quite a few spaces available. So tomorrow, K through 5 families, all families will be receiving a Summer Enrichment Academy, a C interest form. If you are interested in your child attending the program, you'll fill out an interest form. Students will be chosen based on academic need. So we do have assessments. There's also a statement that families can make regarding why they think or how they think their child will benefit from the program. So it's actually academic need and social emotional need. So if you have a specific need that you think your child, if you have something that you think your child really needs specific work on, please make sure you indicate that in the form. The sessions there are 2 sessions for K through 5, only 1 session 6 through 8. The 2 sessions, K through 5, are July 6th through the 15th, and they are Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. This will all be documented in the email that's sent out to families from 9 to 11:30. And session 2 will run from July 20th through July 29th. They're broken up into 2-week sessions. And like I said, they will include project-based learning for English language arts and math. Social emotional learning and play will also be included. This program is at no cost to families, and transportation will be provided to all families regardless of where they live, if needed. There will also be box lunches that will be going home with families. Or with students, I should say. The 6 through 8 program, when I say it's 1 session, it's because we need a commitment from those families for all 4 weeks. Their program is a little bit longer. It is from 8 o'clock until 12:30 each day. And that is also on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays from July 6th through July 29th. It's really important that the community understands that this is funded through a federal grant that is provided to us due to COVID. We're very excited to be able to offer this. And I've been in districts where this has been offered, outside, just through operating budgets. And it really is such a great benefit to students. Unfortunately, we have not been able to do that here in Easton. So we are very excited about this. Even if you think your child does not have an academic need, but you would like them to participate, please fill out the form, because if we have spots, we absolutely will fill them. We're going to fill the programs to the max. We are getting funding for this. And so we want to make sure that we are spending it on our students. We know that there's real need for them to connect to school again, even if their academics are very high and their social emotional may not be anything of concern at the moment. We know that all kids need more at right now. So we're really focused on the kids having fun and being able to participate in some fun projects rather than just sit and do, worksheets or something like that.
Yeah, that is important to point out. It's going to be very exciting. We're going to have this very fun under the sea theme, and it's going to be engaging for the kids. We understand it's their summer. We want to engage them and make sure that they're having fun with themed assignments. I really want to credit Mrs. Pruitt. I'm going to interrupt her to say this because this, as you can imagine, it's school. She's running a small school, a not so small school. Throughout the summer, and with food, transportation, she's hiring all staff. It really is like opening a school, and she's doing it in a very short period of time. Can you, Mrs. Pruitt, just also talk about the professionals on our team who stepped forward to also coordinate this? I just want to make sure we shout out to them as well, because along with you, these are teachers who really have worked, run through the gauntlet this year, and they are stepping forward because they know how important this is for kids, and they're helping coordinate all of this.
Yes, so thank you. I was getting to that.
Sorry.
That's okay. The K-5 program, just so you're aware, will be run at Center School because the ESY program will be at Richardson Olmsted and the middle school and high school. So the K-5 program will be at Center School. We cannot use Parkview this year, and Moreau Hall isn't big enough. So the Center School will be hosting the K-5, 6 through 8 will be at the middle school, and 9 through 12 will be at the high school. The 9 through 12 program is more of a credit recovery. So this is to assist students that were on the verge of failing or failed. So this is a smaller program up at the high school. We recognize that our high school students are in many of them get summer jobs. So we did not necessarily think that the interest would be there for something more towards the K-8, the summer enrichment academy. So we know that we really needed to have a stronger focus for our students that may be on the cusp of failing or were failing a particular course. So that will be offered for English, math, social studies, and science. So if you were sent a form 9 through 12, right now participation is very low. Please, please, please fill it out. And if you think your child would benefit from that, I will tell you now who to contact. So as Dr. Cabral stated, we're very fortunate. I will say that at the very beginning, Ann Weintraub, principal at Center School, came forward to offer her services to kind of come up with an idea for K-5. And her plan is being brought to fruition, and it's going to be a really exciting program for the kids K-5. So thank you to Anne for her dedication and time with that. Then we were able to hire 2 K-5 coordinators. So the coordinators are Megan St. Martin for grades 3 through 5. She's a fantastic 4th grade teacher at Richardson Olmsted. And Stephanie San Pietro will be the director for K-2. She is also one of our teacher leaders, a fantastic teacher at Moreau Hall, grade 2. So we're very thankful. In fact, they've had a ton of work to do because we've actually been hiring a lot of teachers outside of Easton to be teachers in the program. And I have to tell you, these candidates are phenomenal. We have been really excited. There's diversity, there is experience. We're really, really excited about the staff that we have for K-5. We also have some Easton teachers as well, which is great. 6 through 8, Luke Carroll stepped right in as I sent him an invitation, said, we're planning summer school. And of course, Luke did a wonderful job assisting with planning with the whole guidance department. So Amy Meehan, Abby Boyd, and Kathy Millette were really instrumental. And from there, Amy Meehan and Abby Boyd, our guidance counselors, are the co-directors for the middle school. And our high school, again, Kathy Quayle just jumped right in and became the point person at Olive Reigns. She's been fantastic. And Susan Mancuso has been wonderful to work with, our department head for guidance. We really appreciate all that she's been doing to assist us and target the students that are in need. And the whole guidance department, actually. Ryan Ring will be the coordinator for 9 through 12. So any parent that receives an email from Ryan, please respond and sign your child up. This is just a really good opportunity for all of our kids. So I think that basically sums up the summer program that we are able to have. If you have any questions, please let me know. Jackie?
Thank you. So I have two questions. The first is with regard to the funding of this program. Is this a federal grant that you think we'll be able to get in the future, or is this just for the summer?
So that's a great question. So I just submitted the application for the grant today that will be paying for a partial portion. We'll be paying partial portion for the program. That is currently provided just because of COVID.
Okay.
The remaining portion of the program will be funded through ESSER 3. Okay. So whatever we don't get through this fund, it's the 120 grant, will be funded through the ESSER 3 grant. So
which is also just due to COVID.
Right.
Right. Okay. That's what
this is all part of the American Recovery Act.
Okay. Right.
So while we were given funds through ESSER, the Department of Education was also given funds. And the way that they've decided to disseminate those funds are through these grants, one of them being for summer school, or two of them being for summer school, a couple other grants too. We're looking at all of them, but I really don't know if they will be summer school grants going forward because they are from the federal government, from the Recovery Act that is obviously specific to COVID.
Okay. Yeah, and I know that some of these grants, they are looking into the future with them. So I'm hopeful that they will be putting out more grants to help fund this, but it's not certain.
Okay. And then the other question is, I know you still have spots available, but kind of ballpark, how many kids are you expecting in this program?
So at the K-5 level, we are asking families if they prefer session 1, which is 2 weeks, session 2, which is the latter 2 weeks, or all 4 weeks. So right now we are trying, for each session, we are looking to have 30 students per grade.
Designed to be about 250 students overall.
For the middle school, we are looking to have, again, about 30 students per grade. We are also, just so you're aware, we're also partnering with, oh my goodness, I'm blanking on the name, which is terrible because I don't have it prepared in front of me. The Boston, I'm going to have to come back to you with this. Where some of our upper middle school and high school students will have the opportunity to extend their summer enrichment program, where we have reserved slots where they can participate in sailing lessons in the Charles. So we will be providing transportation for those students that are interested.
It's part of their community boating program.
Community boating program, thank you.
Sure.
And that information will be coming as well for those families that are interested. They will have to provide proof of a swim test, which I'm working with the YMCA to see if they can provide those swim tests for the students.
And transportation as well.
Yep, I said that, transportation.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
Together we make one brain.
So absolutely. That's how we've been operating. Thank goodness for Alicia.
No, thank goodness for you too.
So, you know, as you can see, it's been wonderful to be able to plan this. We just need everyone to sign up.
Great. Is that it for assistant superintendent notes?
The only other thing I just want to mention is how wonderful graduation was. Congratulations to the class of 2021. They were everyone. It was just so nice to see everyone without masks and just smiling. And I got a very emotional surprise because it's just this vision of hope. And you know, knowing that this class provided that vision just meant so much more, because they're a fantastic group of kids, and I'm really proud of them and our staff for supporting them as they got through this. That's all I have for this evening.
Great. School committee notes. Caroline?
This actually, I'd like to address to Chrissy and Leisha. I've come across a couple of articles and some research about what's called acceleration versus remediation, when the assumption is that students have major gaps in education. And of course, this year we're talking about gaps related to the very challenging year of having to do both hybrid and remote learning and so on. But from what I understand, the research shows that the acceleration approach, which is teachers starting with new concepts and then kind of backfilling just in time when it's clear that students may need some additional information based on things that they might have missed, that seems to be much more successful in the long run than what I guess has been traditionally more the model, which is to have have teachers rather start with a sort of remediation approach and start going over concepts from the previous year. It seems that that's not overall as successful in terms of outcomes with students. It's also apparently much less engaging for students. So I just wondered, just in relation, not just to summer school, because obviously only a portion of our students will be participating in that, but as the new school year begins, is there discussion of those two approaches? I was really quite interested to see that there is a lot of information out there about the two approaches and about the seemingly superior results from the acceleration approach.
Yeah, thank you, Caroline, for bringing that up. In fact, I have an article on my other screen right here because it's been sort of my mantra after I read it. Our curriculum leaders were provided this article. It's called "Our Kids Are Not Broken." I'm not sure if you've read it. It's by Ron Berger. I can forward it to all of you if I haven't already. I've loved the article. It's through the Atlantic, and this was going to be a huge focus of ours at our curriculum leader meeting in August. And it really talks about how we don't need to necessarily backfill, but we need to move forward. And the article talks about using the analogy of how coaches, when you're playing a game, they may actually just say, okay, and go back and review something, but then continue on with the progress of the skill. And that's exactly what we're looking at. Our students have actually gained so many skills that they would not have gained if it wasn't for this pandemic, that we really need to highlight as well. So our students are more resilient. When we look at our transfer goals that we'll be relaunching and resharing with the community, it really targets a lot of the skills that we have been focusing on and have named that we want our students to graduate with, the skills that we want them to graduate with. They've become problem solvers. They use their critical thinking skills more so than ever, and collaboration through multiple means of devices and multiple means of ways of communicating. So at such a younger age as well. So they're gaining these skills at much younger ages. And again, I'm not saying that technology is the end all be all, but they're learning that there's multiple ways to communicate with somebody than just sitting next to them in a class. And I agree with you, Caroline. I think that this is a huge focus that we really need to focus on at this very pivotal point in education. Because we can't look back and say, what if? We have to look forward and say, this is where we are, and these are these great skills that our students now have, and how can we utilize that to move them forward?
We definitely had these conversations. It's the reason really that we called the summer session, the Summer Enrichment Academy. That was very purposeful because that is the approach that we're taking. It isn't remediation, it is acceleration and enrichment. And that's how we're looking at next year. We again made a conscious choice to stay with the one-to-one program and capitalize on the successes that students have had moving forward. And also, in every year, unfortunately, there are circumstances where students will repeat grades. That happens every year. This year, it's probably counterintuitive, but we had far less repeats this year than any other year. The idea being that we are using what the students learned this year and advancing their skills next year, as opposed to retaining them and reteaching information. And so that's already in motion just from those few examples, but that's definitely how Chrissy's coordinating that with all the curriculum leaders, as she said. That's definitely the approach we're taking going forward. Honestly, it intrinsically, our educators knew that, and the research that we've been reading is just validating it. It really isn't a reaction to the research. I think they all knew, and that's why we've been taking that approach so far. And I think I agree with you. I think we are going to see that it's much more successful.
Well, thank you. It's no surprise to me that you and Chrissy are on top of this, but I did find it intriguing because it is, as you say, it's somewhat counterintuitive. The last thing I wanted to mention was just how lovely class night was. I know that we participated, we were able to observe on Zoom, which was, I was really grateful for that opportunity, but congratulations to all these seniors. Wonderful accomplishments and some really very generous scholarships were awarded. And I just wanted to say that was a particularly enjoyable evening, and it was so nice to be able to have, well, a sort of quasi-traditional event again, sort of the start of a number of senior events. That's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Nancy?
Great graduation. Class night looked great on ECAT. And congratulations to all the seniors. I've heard through the mill that the class of 2022 wants Mr. Paul to come back and read their names at graduation because he does such a great job. Anyway, I think Ms. Kavanaugh will have something to say about that. And I'm very excited about this summer school project. I think that's awesome. And that's all I have.
Great. Jackie?
Thank you. So I also wanted to just thank Mr. Paul and his team for another just beautiful graduation. It's always such a happy event. It just, I don't know, with everything that happened this year, it was just so nice to be able to be there and see everyone's smiling faces and everyone's just so happy. It was really wonderful. And I was thinking about tonight, because this is our last meeting before the end of the school year, and I was thinking about where we were last year at this time, getting ready for the summer and all of our committees and meetings and trying to figure out what we were going to do for the next school year, this past school year. And I'm so grateful for all of the hard work and dedication for our administrators and our teachers and our staff over this very difficult past year. And I'm hoping everyone has a quiet and restful summer. And I am looking forward to a more normal next year. And I just want to thank my colleagues on the school committee as well for all the support you've given me over this past year and our community as well. Happy summer.
Thank you. Jen?
Well said, Jackie. A couple of things I haven't been mentioned yet. Specifically, I just want to congratulate Mr. Petros and everybody at OA who helped pull off the senior night under the stars. There were a lot of parent and staff volunteers there. It was kind of neat to be back there at like 10:30 at night with, you know, your assistant principals coming and dance floor off of a turf field. Certainly a first and hopefully a last. Hopefully the kids will have you know, normal promise in the future. But it was a really great night, and it was a super windy day, and managed to thankfully pull it off. So great job, and congratulations to everybody who worked on that. And then also to the Safe Grad Committee, thank you, congratulations for pulling off a wonderful parade. I know the kids are really appreciative of swag bags that members of the, you know, donations from the community and donations from businesses put together to give all of the seniors a very generous gift bag. Thank you to the OA administration for being so flexible with class night, you know, allowing that to be an in-person event. I know that was really valuable to the students and their families. And then finally, thank you again to Mr. Benson and Mr. Matthews, who it just doesn't end for these guys. So Mr. B had to move the show choir event last week indoors due to rain, and then Mr. Matthews with the heat advisories and you know, using as we talked about a couple summers ago, that that wet bulb low temperature reading on the field that was very much in effect at the end of last week and this week, but seemingly endless changes to all the athletic events and then thunderstorms rolling through. So I hope those two know that the community appreciates all of their hard work, their flexibility, their ingenuity, and I wish them both a very relaxing summer where they finally get a break from endless pivoting and schedule changes. That's it.
And then I just wanted to mention some of the events that we've had the last couple of weeks with seniors. It was really an honor to be a part of class night from a different perspective this year and to be able to read off some of the scholarships. And we have such a generous community that allows for that night to happen, and can't thank them enough for that. And then I think probably at least my favorite event of all year is graduation and being able to hand diplomas to the students for their hard work. I think that just kind of makes everything else that we do worth it. And I believe seniors had their last event last night with a dinner cruise.
That's correct.
I think that's it. So congratulations to them all as they head off into their next adventures. That's all I have. So I have the next meeting as June 24th. And if there's nothing else, I will make a motion to adjourn. Have a second?
Wiseman, second.
All right, roll call vote.
O'Neill, yes.
Durance, yes.
Baruch, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Great night.